He's Chief of Staff, Cherry Hill Campus. He serves as Director of Minimally Invasive Cardiac Surgery and Director of Cardiac Surgery Research and Education. In addition, Dr. Lehr leads Surgical Mitral Valve Program and Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Center and is co-founder of the Swedish Pulmonary Embolism Response Team. Dr. Lehr is active in the leadership of several local, national, and international societies, including the Cardiac Care Outcome Assessment Program for the state of Washington, where he has been member of Management Committee since 2011 and is chair of the Management Committee. He is also member of Board of Directors for International Society of Minimally Invasive Cardiac Surgery and was 58th President of the Eastern Cardiothoracic Surgical Society. Dr. Lehr is the treasurer of the PERT Consortium. He has authored over 85 peer-reviewed papers, 8 book papers, 17 published abstracts, and has over 150 presentations at major national and international meetings. He sits on editorial boards of Annals of Thoracic Surgery, Innovations, and previously the European Journal of Cardiothoracic Surgery. To please welcome Dr. Eric Lehr. Dr. Deepak.
And I'm sure you must be going to share a lot of new things since we last met in September. I think we are all eagerly waiting for your talk. Thank you so much. Everybody is waiting eagerly. Yes.
Great. Dr. Puri, thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor and privilege to be able to present this evening. And I wish I could be there in person, but I'm happy to present here from Seattle and share some advances that we have in minimally invasive cardiac surgery. I'd like today to focus a lot on artificial intelligence and the role that that can play in minimally invasive cardiac surgery. There are some challenges in minimally invasive cardiac surgery. We can have a limited visual field of access. There's a high technical skill requirement. There's a lot of control and variability from patient to patient. And most importantly, with respect to patient-specific anatomical differences. So there is a potential role for artificial intelligence in cardiac surgery, and this can help us with image-guided surgery, eventually with robotic assistance and even automation. There's predictive analytics that will help us provide better risk assessment of each patient. And of course, there's a role for artificial intelligence in surgical training and simulation. There is a wide variety of different types of artificial intelligence. And when we think of deep learning, this is the use of many layered artificial neural networks for machine learning. Deep learning has been able to transform some aspects of medicine, such as medical image analysis, and it works significantly better than previous technology, especially when there's large amounts of data, and particularly if that data is categorically labeled. There's machine learning, which takes an input, can be images or other things, and machine learning will look at morphology, shapes, and gradients, extract various features, lead to a classification model, and then eventually model output. Whereas deep learning can simply take an image, automatically detect features, extract those, and classify automatically, and then lead to the output. This requires an immense amount of computing to solve these types of problems. As humans, we're pretty good at solving low-dimensional problems. We use quote-unquote rules of thumb, but when it comes to large data sets with 10 to the first to 10 to the 14th permutations, this is well beyond what a human can do. Machine learning is much better. This does require an immense amount of computing power. This is one example of a Cambridge 1 artificial intelligence supercomputer. You can see it's absolutely massive. And this is talking in terms of storage with zettabytes and just an immense amount of data that can be processed through these, or is required to be processed for artificial intelligence. When we think about the AI healthcare market map, these are some of the companies that are involved in artificial intelligence within medicine. Some of these I'm sure you've heard of: Epic, Oracle, Microsoft, Amazon Web Services. There's AI Doc, which is involved in the looking at medical images for pulmonary embolisms. And there's also a large number of other ones that are looking at data and analytics, shown here on the far right side of the screen. Artificial intelligence can be involved, or can be used for both diagnosis, treatment selection, can be involved in the actual treatment, and then follow-up as well. So let's talk about the use of artificial intelligence for preoperative planning. There are already some platforms that help us do three-dimensional imaging with reconstruction. We can have personalized surgical roadmaps that can help us identify anatomical anomalies and then optimize port placement. We can use this interoperatively as well with real-time imaging and navigation. There can be artificial intelligence assistance for various robotic tools such as Da Vinci and other robotic platforms. Potentially, we can use this for automated suturing or ablation guidance, so it can show us where is the best place to ablate or where to suture or how to suture. And then we can also use artificial intelligence for monitoring through vital metrics. These are some of the robotic companies that are currently either being used or in development and in various states of development, and artificial intelligence can potentially interact with a lot of these different manufacturers and different robotic platforms. This is some examples of using artificial intelligence for predicting where the best port placement is, and this is a presentation that has been shared with me by this group here in Bonn, Germany, and they have done some incredible work, and I'd like to share some of their use of artificial intelligence as a prediction model to place or for port placement for robotic procedures. And you can see that the sophistication of computing technology has increased dramatically. From in the top right corner, this was the control, the primary control room for the first flight to the moon. And then down here we have mission critical control for more modern rocket launches. So there's various standards that we have. Standards include positioning and incision planning. And right now, when we're thinking about port placement for minimally invasive robotic cardiac surgery, it's really just surgeon experience and where we think about placing these ports in general. This works, but to have standardization, it does take some time. There's trial and error. If the ports aren't placed appropriately, they can be some risk to patient safety. And so we want to be able to have, as new robotic platforms enter the market, we want to have a standard that would be appropriate to predict port placement for all of these different types of robots. There's various visualization techniques. This is the Apple Vision Pro. There's also the Microsoft HoloLens. There's different ways that we can use these existing technologies to help predict port placement. And the positional accuracy with some of these devices, with the Apple Vision Pro, for example, can be less than 6 millimeters. So let me show you a potential use of this. This is the Foster Robotic Suite. And this is for mixed reality planning. So this is a lab. This is not the operating room. This is a simulated lab. You can take the CT scan, take out the parts of the body that you don't want to visualize. You can lay this image onto a virtual platform and then plan the port placement. You can then take this full platform into the operating room. This is simulating a patient lying on the table. You can see there the drapes laid out. Then you take an image and overlay that on top of the patient, and then use the port plan or port placement plan that was previously generated by the artificial intelligence, and then overlay that onto the patient, and then use that simulated image to match the image of the actual robot. And you can see these actual robot being aligned here with the artificial intelligence image, and then make the incisions, and then place the ports, carry on with the operation. And this should help eliminate problems with conflict and challenges with reaching different structures within the heart. Ideally, Ideally, this prediction system would be a universal robotic or even minimally invasive planning platform, so one system with any approach for any patient. There's also opportunities for artificial intelligence for post-operative support. This would be to predict or have predictive models for complications, provide personalized recovery plans and discharge plans as well, recovery plans. We can have artificial intelligence-powered monitoring systems, so both in the hospital looking at ECGs, for example, predicting who is developing problems, who is developing complications, and it also would allow us to send patients home earlier with monitoring systems in place so that we can reduce the length of stay and enhance the efficiencies of care. There can also be use in or native language processing and follow-up analysis as well, so that we can look at the outcomes of patients and see how they're doing and look for opportunities for improvement. So just to back up a little bit, big data is looking at extremely large data sets that we use computational models to reveal different patterns, trends, and associations, and particularly as that relates to human behavior and interactions. The pace of this is accelerating. We think that there was, years gone by, there was only 100,000 mainframes that were produced. There was 10 billion workstations, leading to eventually 1.5 billion personal computers, and now there's over 5 billion mobile computer platforms. And the pace at which these different technologies are taken up by a large number of people across the world is incredibly, or the acceleration is increasing at an incredible rate. So if you think about the telephone, it took many years, started back in the 1900s, and it wasn't until even into the 2000s where everyone in the world basically had, or at least in the US, had a telephone. On the other hand, the internet, it only took a couple of years for everyone in the US to have the internet. Furthermore, the use of various platforms is accelerating as well. We see some of the more legacy applications, Gmail, Facebook, etc., took multiple years to have over 100 million people using their platforms. TikTok took just 2 years to get to about 200 million. And we also see that in terms of e-commerce. I think the US is slower than the rest of the world, but it's still taken, in more recent years, there's been a dramatic increase. Even in 2019, there was a significant increase from 16% to 27% of e-commerce platform being used. So what are some of the barriers for digital platform applications in healthcare? There's technical limitations. This can be related to errors in image quality, definition of appropriate metrics. There can be clinical data problems where there's unstructured data. That's one of the largest problems where we often take the notes, and that is difficult for the artificial intelligence platform to read those notes and make sense of them. It's much better if there's structured data where we put in, for example, the specific data point for creatinine or renal failure, heart function, valve function. So instead of using words, using structured data. There's concerns about confidentiality, and there are problems is looking at multi-centric collaboration. There's data privacy concerns and real problems with data governance in terms of how the different systems collaborate with each other and what the definitions for the data points are between institution to institution. And then just trying to implement the platforms into clinical use can be challenging in terms of knowing how to implement these into our current existing workflows and knowing what the regulatory requirements are. There's also opportunities for us to use post-operative or to use artificial intelligence for post-operative support. So if a patient is potentially going home, we can look at predictive models for complications, personalized recovery planning, monitoring systems as well, so we can potentially send a patient home with a chest tube and monitor the chest tube output. We can look at their vital signs. It'll help us determine if somebody at home is developing pericardial tamponade, for example, or atrial fibrillation, or who's at risk for those. So multiple different options there. With big data analytics, we no longer use spreadsheets and sticky notes, but we can use this to help us automate our processes to get prediction trends for outcomes, readmissions, and so on. It allows us to prioritize what is most urgent, specifically for each particular patient. This is one example that we have used in our hospital. So we can look, for example, at how many heart failure patients are being treated optimally with the four-drug guideline, directed medical therapy. If we only have 2 heart failure specialists, how can we make them more efficient? So in one particular AI system, there's over 350 million records, but it's hard to know which patients require attention. Over 3 years, there's a study of nearly 25,000 patients. This had thousands and thousands of echocardiograms, millions of diagnoses, looking at labs, different types of surgery, which patients died during this observation period, looking at prescription and clinical notes. And within that, we found that most patients were only on a single drug, some patients weren't being treated at all, and only 2% of patients were on all 4 medications as per the AHA guidelines. I'm going to skip through some of this. What we see here is that patients that are on appropriate medical management have a significantly higher survival than those patients that are on only none or one medication. And so the implication here is that there's a large opportunity for artificial intelligence to sort through all these different records for post-operative patients and see how we can optimize their post-operative management. The other aspect is that we can use artificial intelligence, for example, for post-operative echocardiograms. We can look at automatically various factors and help us understand who is doing well and who isn't. I'm going to skip through some of this here as well. So eventually, we'll be able to use technology like this to look at an echocardiogram. We know that some patients may be asymptomatic, but some patients are at higher risk of developing deep clinical deterioration. Some patients, it can be difficult to know which patients specifically need an operation when they're not symptomatic. So artificial intelligence can potentially go through the charts, look at the echocardiogram, and then help us know those patients that are at high risk of developing complications such as heart failure, syncope, or deterioration of heart function. For mitral valve patients, we know that there are some patients in the severe mitral insufficiency population that have some time to wait before an operation is necessary to prevent deterioration and long-term adverse outcomes. Some patients need to have an operation much sooner. So these platforms might be able to help us understand which patients are the best ones moving ahead sooner for an operation than others. There's also implications for quality improvement. So we can look at various data sets. We have the ability to see retrospectively which patients did well after an operation. Right now we have fairly simple risk stratification models, such as the STS risk model. There's the European model as well. These models that we use currently can help us predict which patients are at high or low risk of having problems and mortality after cardiac surgery. If we have artificial intelligence involved with this, we'll be able to much more appropriately and efficiently and accurately determine which patients are at risk of having complications and potentially change their operation, decide who should have a catheter-directed approach versus surgery, and who should just undergo medical management. There are some challenges with using artificial intelligence in cardiac surgery, specifically with regards to data privacy and bias. These computer systems can develop their own sets of bias within them based on the data that's inputted into those large data sets. It can also be challenging to integrate with surgical workflows. There's also a balance between surgeons relying on this and systems specifically doing the whole operation itself. And then, of course, there's various regulatory and ethical concerns. And where is this going to go in the future? There's some possibilities to have autonomous surgery with robots that actually do the operation as opposed to current robots, which is simply a telemanipulator that the surgeon is using. There can be potential for having a digital twin, thereby allowing simulation. There's always continuous learning for the AI systems, and it also allows for greater accessibility and democratization of advanced therapies. So in conclusion, I think that artificial intelligence has the ability to enhance decision safety and outcomes. It also allows us to give augmentation of clinical technology and surgery, but it's not a replacement for physicians, specifically in the surgical realm. And there's definitely a need to have clinical and technological collaborations. With that, I'd like to end my presentation. If you have any questions, I really appreciate that presenting today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eric. Dr. Eric, there is an amazing change in the surgical techniques as well as the artificial intelligence implications. So, is there any training program for the surgeons to undergo this transformation?
You know, training is going to be a very important part of this. There is one particular training program that has some institutions across the world, but I think this is very limited at the moment. A lot of this is still under research protocols and under development. There's a few specialists in artificial intelligence. Purdue, for example, is one. So training programs specifically, I think right now are fairly limited, and probably over the next 2 to 3 years, as this becomes more developed and more programs start to on some of these various types of artificial intelligence platforms, I think we'll eventually have more training programs. But right now, I think training is difficult because a lot of it's still under development.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eric.